Loading again. Then share my screen. Okay. So if you had calculated your 17 actually, which was correct, and then you then do some maybe maths and you realize that if you use 15 instead, save it, everything should align, right? Now the question is, someone who is analytical will begin to wonder why 17. It's supposed to work normally. If there are 19 spaces and you fix 2, the empty spaces should be 17. That's correct. But why was it not correct? That's where you then drill deep and realize that there is this argument. There is this argument that by default is a space. So anytime you print, when you print this line, who is let me see, I need to mute somebody. Okay, so the separator argument comes in play when we have more than one argument in print. So if your print statement prints more than one thing, it is going to separate them with separator by space. Now, if you look at this print statement we are dealing with here, it contains 3 parameters. The first parameter is the first asterisk. You put a comma. The second parameter is empty space times 15. You put a comma. And the third parameter is another star, which means this print, we add a space between the first parameter and the second parameter because the separator is a space. It will add another space between the second parameter and the third parameter because the separator is a space. Okay, so if you want to see it, you make the separator something else. Let me call it percentage. So, and then put it back at 17 so that you now see what actually happened. Why the thing seemed as if your math was wrong, but your math was right. So if I make the separator this, save it, and run. Can you see that?
Yes.
It added 2 extra spaces. After the first element, it added a space. Then your 17 space correct. It added another percentage because I've replaced separator with percentage. You can visually see why when you run it this time, it did not balance. So you may be struggling with that. It's just because of the separator argument. So I hope that covers the question on number 2.
Yes.
Okay, so that's it. Then there are many other ways. So today now, we quickly jump to an interesting topic, which is for loop. Now, for loop now is one of the things that make your programming powerful. For loops. So in programming, you need to repeat some actions a number of times. We told you before that Python evaluates line by line, which is it will evaluate line 1, jump to line 2, line 3, like that. That's how Python goes line by line, right? But there are some situations where you will want to repeat a certain action. Instead of you to type it like this case now, let me not use this one. Let me bring this one, for instance, this. In the last chapter, we did this, right? And this is 4 times. I repeated the same thing 4 times. So I needed to repeat this same printing 4 times. It's a repetitive action. Now, to handle this in Python, we now have for loops for handling repetition. And the format for for loop is for you can say for I in range, I want to repeat it 4. This means for I in range 4, I'll then put print. Now, if I comment everything out, right? So this is the only thing that is active, and I save the file and run it. You see, it printed it 4 times. What's happening here is because of the for loop. It repeats. Instead of Python to just move line 35 and line 36 and line 37, the for loop is going to repeat by the range if you use the range. Now, the range is a function in Python. The range delivers it generates numbers, a repetition in a certain sequence. Now, when you put it like this with 4, what it does, if we could say, instead of printing this, let us print I. Print the loop variable. The I there now is the loop variable. Mind you, the I can be anything. Okay? This I can be anything. This I can be, you can say for J in range. You can say for car in range. You can call it anything for number in range. Let me just even use number. So it will not be like I is one standard, something like that. You can say for num in range, print num. So we are going to print it so we understand how the range works. It releases a range of values. So we save it and we go back to run. Can you see what it's printing? 0, 1, 2, 3. Which means the first time in this range you generate, the first thing range you generate now is usually starts from 0. It will generate 0. It will do the action. It will come back to the second repetition. It will generate up to 3. 0 to 3. It will not generate number 4. It will generate 4 items, but it starts from 0. Are we together?
Yes.
It starts from 0. Now, to expand a little bit more on the range function, you can have how range actually works. It has a start, it has an end, and it has a step. You can say start, stop. So this is how the range works. Okay, it has a value for start, it has a value for stop, and it has a value for step. But these things, they have default value. The default value for start is equal to 0. So if you do not supply start, automatically start is equal to 0. Stop is the number you must supply. And then step by default is equal to 1. So when we ran it the first time, what we supplied was stop, which was 4. Are we getting something?
Yes.
So you started with...
Albia, sorry, can you just go back a little bit from that start? Thank you.
So this, before I come into that, let me write the formal one. So we did something like this, right? This was the kind of thing we did. So I was trying to explain how the range works by expanding that in this range is a Python function, just like print. We're using print. Range is also a function in Python. So how range works, it generates numbers from 0. It doesn't start from 1, it starts from 0 to stop. Now, it has a start. By default, the start is what? 0. If I say it starts from 0, then it needs a stop. you must supply a stop, which when you write range in this form without specifying the start or the step, and you just write 4, that 4 I supplied, even though it's the number of times I want the loop to run, it is my stop. Okay, so if your stop is 4, it will not print 4, it's going to print 0 to 3. So 0 to 3 is 0, 1, 2, 3. It's like 4 times. That's the idea. But it will not print your stop, which is number 4 itself, but it will print from 0 to 3. Okay, when normally we want to count 4, we don't count 0, we count 1, 2, 3, 4. But the Python is now counting 0, 1, 2, 3 as 4 items. It starts from 0, then it goes to 1. So knowledge of this affects how you use the range. You know a range always starts from 0, and then the stop is the last number you want it to get. Then the step is how many times it steps. By default, the stepping is 1. By default, the starting is 0. You don't need to supply those 2 because they have default values. So when we supplied only 4, automatically the start was 0, the step was 1. Now to buttress what I'm saying, I'll change this one back to comment because I just want to work with this. Now let's print again the loop variable. The loop variable now in this case is I, which is for each of those items that range throws out, for each of them. So for each of them, let's print it. For each of them, let's print it. Now, I will now start at number 1, comma. See? Now, I've supplied a start, and then we have a stop. I did not supply step. Then you will see that when you do it this way, it's going to print only 1 to 3. Because it's not going to print in the stop. It will just stop 1 before the stop. Okay, so if I run it and then we'll save it, clear my terminal is busy, and then I run it. Can you see? 1, 2, 3. Which means to me that if I want to include 4, instead of stopping it at 4, I will stop it at 4 plus 1, which is 5. Okay, so if I put 5 now, I'm going to have save and run. I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that is for start and stop. Now let's deal with step. Let's increase the number to 10 so that we can understand it better. Let's remove, let's say, okay, we start at 2. Let's say we want to print even numbers between 1 or even numbers from 1 to 10, right? I will then step it towards 2. Save it and run. So you see, to bring 2, 4, 6, 8, it won't bring 10 because 10 is the last. So if I want to include 10, I will need to go a number above. Maybe I'll say 11, save, then it will bring out the 10. So the stepping now in range, in this range now, the stepping is what determines how it's going to step as you're using your range. Okay? Are we together?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yes. Okay. I want to ask a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, we got this thing from the output. The answer is shown in a form, in a vertical form. What if I want to make it in a horizontal form? That's at the printer statement area.
Great,
At the
good
output area.
question. Good question.
At
So now I will now remember that the reason why it's in vertical, can anybody tell us why it's printing in vertical form? You see what I added?
Yes. The
By
end.
default, every print ends in a new line. So when you print, the new line always make things to go to the next line. So now if you don't want it, like he wants it to be horizontal, if you don't want it, you can change this new line and put it as a space. So instead of going to a new line, it will print a space, then the next one will come behind. So if you save it now or run it, you see it there. So when he prints the first one, instead of a new line to jump to a new line, he then added a space. So when he prints the second one, he added another space, and then you now have it like that. If you don't want to put space to see the effect, you can just put it, let it be nothing. Let the end be nothing. You remove the space, it's just nothing. Save it and run. Everything will jam together. You get? Because there's nothing separating them. So that's how it is. So if you want to get it horizontal now, you don't manipulate your prints. Yeah. But this now is the loop variable that you use to generate your loop. When you've generated your loop, it's not compulsory that you work with the loop variable. Like when I did this one, when I did this, I did not work with loop variable, right? I didn't print my loop variable. I just did other things. So if you want to repeat an action in Python 10 times, you can just use a for loop, but you're not going to use the for loop variable. You'll just be doing what you want to do 10 times. You get? Someone could even do something like this. I'm just throwing this in here. Let's say we have A. I can say A times I, right? I can do this. So because I now will be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I'm not going to multiply A by the first time it will be 2. The second time it will be 4. The third time it will be 6. You also see the result if I save it and run it. You see, the first A is 2. The next A, because I'm multiplying it by the loop variable. So there are many things you can do. It's now giving you options. You can use that number that the loop is throwing out to do something. Or you can choose not to use it. But then what we need to learn primarily from this is that the for loop is used to create repetition in Python. I hope it's clear. Is it clear?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So you can also see them, their exercises, like what they are doing here. They will say the program will print A. They say print A, then print B, then it will print C, D. How many times? 5. CD, 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 CD. 5 times. And then they finally printed E. So that's just what chapter 2 is talking about. Here is where they talk about the loop variable, which is the I itself. Here they were not using the loop variable, but now you now start using the loop variable. And here they explain the same range function I was trying to explain to you. And now look at this. You can run it negatively. You can run it negatively. When you just put 10, by default, the starting for 10 is 0. The step is 1, right? We say something like that. It runs 10 times. So if you want it to jump to 2, you can put the step to be 2. Like in this case now, they did 15 times, step 3. Step can be anything. Now, something that is key is backward. Okay? Moving backward. You can also move backward. To move backward, you start with the last number. Let's say we want to start with 20 and we want to stop at which point? We want to stop at 0. But if you stop at 0, it will stop at 1. It will not include 0. Because you always remember the stop will not be included. Then let's say I step it by 1 or -1. So it has to be my 1 coming backwards from 20. I then multiply 8 times this. You will then see how it's going to show up for us. See? It's coming down. You started from 20, but it's going down. Do you get? So the first I was 20, the next I will be 19, the next I will be 18. You're running down. That's what it's not trying to say, the range. So this helps us to, do repetitions in our codes. And then you're going to jump to the examples, the exercises now, and also do some exercise. Are we together?
Yes.
So the key thing is understanding how range works, that by default, range starts at let me just remove these guys. By default, range starts at what? 0. And step by default is 1. So if you don't specify those two, it will start from 0 and be jumping one time. Now, what you must supply is the stop. So somebody can just write range 6. Range 6 will bring out 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then if you want to do 0, 2, 4, you change the step to 2. Can also change it to 3 or anything. That's how much it will jump. Then you have stop and then you start. So that's it. This is for chapter 2. See, it's very lightweight. You just understand the concept of looping with 4. 4 is not the only loop in Python, but this is just one of them. Now, we've given you like some tools. In chapter 1, they've given you the inputs to collect things from people. Then they've given you print. And then you know that print has some arguments, default arguments. And then you now come now, they now say loop repeating. That, and just like I did, instead of you to do this 4 times like you did in number 1, right? You could just use a loop and you created it 4 times. You could use a loop with the multiplier effect. Things begin to happen. Okay? Does anybody have any question?
Good.
So what we want you to do now is, in our usual way, you will still come and read chapter 2. Not a big thing to read. We've talked about most of these things, but we'll read it. Maybe there's even something I didn't mention, you'll still trap it there. And when you then read it, attempt to solve these problems. Now, the problems begin to get a little bit more complex as you're going down. Okay? But for you to solve this problem, you would think, how do I do it? How do you combine? Some tools have been given to you. How do you combine the tools? Do you understand how to use your 4 with your range? And all that. Any question? Now, the people that don't do exercises now, they're going to start having problems. That's just the truth now. You're going to start having problems if you didn't do the exercises. Later, by the time we get to maybe chapter 3, and tell you go and do the exercise, see, the thing now will now begin to jam. Because you needed to have known A to go to B and then expand to C. You need all those things. They come hand in hand. We are building something, knowledge is building. But if you're not doing, by the time you just hit this chapter 3 now, it will look as if things are complex. Things now begin to look a little bit more complex. But the people that have been doing chapter 3, they will not find it hard. Then we'll now come to if statement. Chapter 3 talks about operators, numbers and operators. Okay, how we manipulate numbers. Then we'll go to if statement. By the time you reach if statement now, you see your programming have gone high. You appreciate a lot in the stuff now. I know those that did exercise 1, they would have seen the fun in it. So this is where we'll stop for today, chapter 2. Summary of what we did today is that we introduced us to GitHub. So everybody is expected by the next class. I'll be telling you, can you share your repository with me? I'll show you how to share it with me. Yeah, we'll even be in class. I'll be looking at everybody's repository because I'll be opening them one by one using the link which you're going to share. I'll show you how to do it. And then we'll then begin to see your work, right? How you save it. Then I always give this as a guide. If you observe, when I'm working, sometimes I change some part of my codes to comment so that they don't affect the running. If you're solving, maybe this was at number 1. When you finish solving number 1, you just make it a comment. Solve number 2. Can change it to a comment. If I'm sure it's correct, I go to number 3. So you can host all of them. If you want to be more neat and defined, you can just follow this format, which I put here. This one. So the person now, maybe he will copy the question and put it. And there's what we call another type of comment. And let me just explain this, because somebody may say, why did I do it like this? We told you about the comment that starts with hash, right? That's one type of comment in Python. The second type of comment is the docstring, which is the one I did here. When you want to put something that looks like a paragraph like this, because this hash is line by line, every line have hash. But let's say you want to put like a text, a piece of text that is thick, like a paragraph. Instead of you to be doing hash, 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 you can use the docstring. And the way the docstring functions is 3 quotation marks, whether single or double. So it can be like this. You can have it like this. Don't mind. By the time I say, let me type 3, this Visual Studio Code is just helping us. It makes things easier. By the time you type the third one, it will multiply it, you will see 6. So I do 1 like this, 2 and 3. Already it has put another 3 behind, because it understands the moment you do 3, it already understands you're doing a docstring. So it have completed these 6, but I can then press enter. So I have 3 at the top, 3 at the bottom. The moment you put 3 quotation mark, everything underneath it becomes a comment until you close it with the second 3 quotation mark, which means if I delete this one now, if I delete the second 3, you observe that the whole code have turned to comment, right? So once you start a docstring, everything on that is becoming a comment until you close the docstring, and you close it with another 3. So if you look at what I did here, I copied the question, I put a docstring start, pasted the question, and I closed it with a docstring, which is simply the moment you start typing it, if you type 3 quotation, Visual Studio Code just immediately puts the other one. Then you just press enter and create your space. Type whatever you want to type here, as much as you want, no problem. So far as it's within these 2 quotations, start here, end here, it's a docstring. Right? So maybe you may want to adopt this so that your code will look more easily understandable, whereby you just put maybe here, this was number what? Is it number 16 or number 9? Right? So I can put
Number
like
9.
this. I can put like this, number 9. So I can do number 1. I put the question. I solve. After I solve, I introduce a second docstring for number 2 question. But the thing is that after everything too, because I want to do the next question, I'll just highlight all and still make them a comment. Now, another person may ask, how am I making everything a comment like this? Is Control / Are we together?
Mm-hmm.
On your computer, / is this one here that point like this. Then the other slash that point the other way is called backward slash. This one like this now is forward. This one is backward. Let me make it a comment so Python will not be thinking too much. This is forward. This is backward. So control forward slash, which is control plus this. Once you highlight it, you press control plus this, it makes a comment. If you want to remove it from a comment, you do control plus this again. It removes it from a comment. So we'll stop here. Okay, 2 questions typed. Just 1 and 2. I don't know why I say just 1 and 2.
Obi, I think he replied the first person who asked the question.
Yeah, I replied Martins. That was
He
asking.
replied Martins.
Okay, no problem. So that's it. So please, now we will not be asking again who did. The next question is, let us see your repository. From there now we'll now be checking. So we know
That would
who
be
is
awesome.
doing and who is not doing. By the time you give me the link, the upper week now, I will not need to ask you on my own. I will come into your repository and see. I can even make comments about your code. Only you will see the comment. You see, I can comment on your code. So we'll all be working together like that. Any question?
That repository site never too clear, but I've created the the account. Maybe when I practice, I think I will.
Yeah,
If I have
exactly.
any questions to ask them.
Exactly. Yeah. And then there's someone I said after the class we should do something together for setup.
So, sorry, excuse me, Lazy.
Yes.
So, I've also signed in a GitHub. So the next process is to do the installation, GitHub installation.
Git installation, not GitHub, Git.
Git installation. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I think if we follow step by step from the video, we'll be able to arrive at creating this repository.
Okay, this is my own GitHub now that I'm showing back. I even put my passport. Later to you also put your own passport. All this one you're seeing there, there are different repositories that I worked on. Some of them are public, right? Some of them are private. Then here, this my own is not a good example. Okay. This is not a good example. I have to state it. This place you're seeing here that looks like calendar. Are you listening?
Yes.
Yes.
As you're a person that is learning programming, your target is this place will be filled with green, green, green. Now, most of my work is not green here because when you're working for a company, it will not be reflecting on this public space. You get. But if I'm carrying out private work for myself, I can then host it here. But like I said, mine is not a good example. But your own now, the target is that every day, these boxes stand for days. You see some part is green. If you put it, you say this September 2nd, I did 8 contribution. The day before, I put 24. This one that is light, I put how many? This thing should wait now. 2 contributions. Sometimes gray is no contribution, which means I didn't commit anything to Git. Are you getting? Now, if you faithfully begin to, as you do your exercise, you commit, at least every week now, you'll be having green, green. And sometimes those exercises, you don't finish them in one day. You use 2-3 days to do them. Those 2-3 days will be showing. So with this, somebody can even know how you did your assignment. I can just look at it and know that, you just did it one day. If you copy the assignment from somebody, it will show. If you did it and you're committing, number 1, number 2, it will also show. Because if you put on it, say 24 commit or 2 commit, it can be seen. So this is your heat map. Your target now is let your heat map be as green as possible. Any person own that is green is because he's doing activity and is committing it in there. So now when you open your own repository, you come to home. Okay, this in the home now, you can see this green button for new. You click on it. When you click on it, you bring it to this page, right? This is my own name. Then the repository name, you put the name you want to name your repository. You can put description, it's optional, it's not by force. Then you can choose private or public. I'm just advising, just put it private, as in for this one, because it's just, of course, look at this thing now. If I'm to commit this code, of which I'm going to do now anyway, all these things that we did today, I'm going to commit it. Okay. I'll commit it in the end of today. If I'm to commit this, it's not looking good. This is not the kind of thing I want to show someone that, oh, I did a work. So it's private, only you is seeing it. That's why I say choose private. But when you do a work you're proud of, you want everybody to see, right? You like look at this one I did now. It's a small project I did 3 months ago. You can see I took time to write README. If you read the README, you understand what's going on. It's explained. So if someone comes to my profile, this one is public now, the person can see a work I've done, read about the work, some small write-up. Do you get? This one now, I'll be proud to show it. But this one I just rough work, it will be private. And tomorrow, when you want to get a job in program, this is where you're going to sell yourself. You will show them your work with the GitHub link, which I say next class, I'm going to show you how to share that link. This is the link here. We share it. Do you get? And don't worry, when you start doing this, even in your HTML, those of you that are doing HTML and CSS, if you just create a small project, like you did a work, you can showcase it. Even on LinkedIn, I just created my first HTML page. You can find it here. So all those kind of things, you're selling yourself. I think some weeks ago there was a talk that was organized and all of us were there, or some of us were there. And that senior engineer was telling us how you can be highlighting your little successes, that you don't have to wait until you do a very big project. But the little, when you're doing that, someone else will be seeing you. You will not know the person that will be noticing, this guy, he's growing. Oh. And before you know, say, can I talk to you? That's interview. He talk to you, he's happy, say, come and work with me. Because he has been seeing your work. Don't worry, someone is asking if the thing is private, whether you can see the heat map. I don't think you can see the heat map is private, but later I'll show you how you make it to be visible. So we are done. I think our time is also finished. We'll call it today. Somebody said he was struggling with configuration. Who is that, please?
Yeah, LB.
Yeah?
Yeah, I was going to call you as well after that for the configuration
Okay.
because my my Visual Studio, the OneDrive that is hosted, right? I want to change it. Did you get? I want to change it to another OneDrive and then link the GitHub to it.